never find this out, right?
But that was even recently, right? You needed a license in each state,
Yeah,
so
up
it's hard
until
to
the
get it.
1980s, this was true. Actually, it wasn't actually repealed until 1995. All right? But if you were a bank in Ohio, you couldn't have a branch in Pennsylvania. If you were a bank in New York, you couldn't have a branch in New Jersey. All right? Is that insane or what? What kind of stupid law is that? Canada has 10 banks. And I mean 10 banks, the whole country. There's only 10. The United States has about 4,800.
Wait, 10 banks as in 10 locations?
No, 10
Okay.
banks. Yeah, Toronto Dominion and Bank of Montreal.
That's
Royal Bank of Canada.
What?
TD Bank is,
TD, Toronto Dominion, yeah.
so that's not a number.
That's one of them. That's one of them. Bank of Montreal, I could name them, but they probably won't let me do it, so. Right? That's why they all come to my mind.
In the case of Canada, you see the population is small.
Yeah, but it's not that small.
30 million.
You still have 35 million people.
Yeah, 35 million.
New York has more than 10 banks and it only has 8 million people, right?
Yeah, but we got 35 million in the tri-state area.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, you know, like, we have more than 10 banks, don't we?
Definitely.
Yeah, 23 failed this year though.
What, 10 months on one block?
Small savings banks.
Sure, we have banks all over. We've got to have at least 500 different banks in New York City, right? Okay, anyway. The important point here is that diversification comes because now you're allowed to cross state borders. So remember, you know, you're a bank in Texas. Who are you going to lend to?
Texans,
Yeah, but what do Texans do?
steers, and
Oil,
Oil.
right? You're going to lend to oil companies, right? So if the oil industry collapses, what happens to your bank? Collapses too, right? So what can you do to diversify? Nothing. Nothing. We're not allowed to go outside this area, right? You're in what's that called? The valley in California with all the tech companies.
Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley, but what's the, San Bernardino, right? San Bernardino?
San Jose.
San Jose.
San Jose.
San Jose Valley, right? Who are you gonna lend to?
what
Tech
the-
company.
Tech companies, right? Tech collapses, what happens to you? You collapse. So the whole idea was repealing this silly law that said you couldn't go outside your state, right? Meant you could diversify. Open a branch in Silicon Valley, open a branch in Houston, Texas, open a branch in Wisconsin, where you're more tied to the dairy industry or something. And you can diversify it. Presumably not all industries will collapse simultaneously, right? So you don't have to collapse when something bad happens. Anyway, the important point here is this became a justification that the 1990s were different from the 1920s, and now you could repeal the Glass-Steagall Act. Okay. What about collateral? What about collateral? Well, collateral management might be a better way to say this. Why were the 1990s different from the 1920s?
You need as much collateral?
Basically, right? You see, if we're going to get into this real estate market big time, it's not a scary thing because there's a real house behind this loan. And everybody knows houses never go down. Right? Everybody knows this. You knew this 4 years ago. In 2005, everybody said that. Yeah, I remember this, very class. We were yelling and screaming at each other because everybody saying housing was gonna go up. I was the only one who said, I didn't think they were gonna collapse, by the way. They didn't say, they're not gonna keep going up, they gotta go down at some point. I never dreamed that this would have happened.
Let me ask you a question. So now they're down 20%. Do you foresee them going up again?
Absolutely.
From that, I mean, just to regain that 20% and up?
No, they'll keep going up.
And once inflation goes up, it'll be the same thing.
No, it's people. The United States is growing yet. The population's growing. Where are they gonna sleep?
They got pillows outside. Sleep on the street.
The pillows are just pieces of linen at this point, I presume.
I don't know, but somebody's going crazy
I don't
out
know who's
there.
gonna clean that up then. Feathers fly all over the place. But you guys should understand, right? It was thought, this is different. We're not stupid. These are all real estate loans. There's collateral behind them, right? So this time it was different, right? You should understand it's not different. It's the same thing, right? But that was the argument used in the 1990s, right? Okay. Then the third thing, restrictive covenants. This is different from the 1920s. In the 1920s, they didn't know about this stuff. What's a restrictive covenant?
When I go to confession,
You see, you guys remember September, don't you? Don't remember September, huh?
Yeah.
I know you just started the program and you're too tired to read the newspapers at the end of the day and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things you may remember is one day in early September, AIG is in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the next day they say, actually, could somebody spot us $85 billion?
Yeah.
How'd that happen? How do you just see $85 billion disappear in one day? I understand you can lose $85 in one day, but how do you lose $85 billion? You see, they didn't lose $85 billion in one day. What happened?
They realize that they have this liability, that there's a possibility that they're gonna have to pay.
There was a restrictive covenant.
Oh.
Right? A restrictive covenant is when the bank, in this case Goldman Sachs, puts restrictions on you as the borrower and says that if you don't live up to these terms, I want my money back and I want it now. All right? So on September, I forget the date, but it was September, I think it was the 15th or so, right, a little bit after Labor Day, Moody's said AIG is no longer AA, they're BAA. And that kicked off the restrictive covenant. The loan agreement said you have to be AA. You're not AA anymore, give us our $85 billion back. In one day. Right? AIG says, they go into one pocket, no, not there. Go into the other pocket, not there. Next week maybe, how's that? And then it becomes hysteria, right? They call up the government, can you just get us out of this for a moment, give us $85 billion? Yeah.
So Moody's now rates AIG first, and then the restrict